Hello guys, welcome to another episode of the Weekly Feedback. I'm your host Caveman PRDR, and today we're going to be going over not that many things, not really that many things to go over this week, mainly just three things immediately that I can think of. First one, a quick dev blog, I believe was released on Wednesday, and it's titled Creating the Sounds of Lightfall. So I'm assuming it was the developer insights for the music and the soundtrack behind the DLC and the campaign for the DLC. I'm not going to go over all of the details about it, but it sounds like there was some other things, including how they were wanting to do the voice acting for the Cloud Striders and maybe a couple of some other things on here. It may be interesting to some of you, so I want to leave a link for this in the description down below. Now we're going to get into some more of the technical, more of the gameplay things, including hotfix 7.0.0.7, Trials of Osiris fixing an issue where wins on a 7-win Trials passes would reward unfocusable Trials engrams. New Moon of Free Roam, reduce the prevalence of elite orange health bar enemies to lower base difficulty of Free Roam, fixed an issue that would cause Cabal turrets on Ahizma to park to respawn too quickly, rid of nightmares, fixed an issue where Nezarec would not react to players that were positioned in a Well of Radiance, difficulty, combatant health, scaling for 2 and 3 player fire teams, reduced in the Season 20 Legendary Exotic Mission, reduced enemy health in Legend and Master Tier Nightfall's Battleground, Lost Sectors offensives, hunts, and Legend Master campaign missions. UI UX, reduced the commendation score required for Guardian ranks 7, 8, and 9, removed Guardian rank objectives that require players to give commendations from 7, 8, and 9, reduced the number of commendations required for Hawthorne's weekly challenge from 20 to 5. General armor, reduced the number of additional scorch stacks added by flare up artifact perk in PvP to 15, down from 30. Weapons fixed an issue where target lock was not correctly deactivating on a miss if the weapon was firing at 720 RPM or higher. Fixed an issue where some players were unable to acquire the Risk-Runner Catalyst. Fixed an issue where Quicksilver Storm and Touch of Malice were not receiving the 40% damage buff against minor enemies. Power and Progression fixed an issue where certain ghost mods were not correctly unlocked when progressing through Guardian ranks, and also fixed an issue where certain new players were missing access to patrol destinations. Some of these are really important things. The Trials engram focusing was a pretty big deal. There was a pretty big deal about Nezarec not really fighting back whenever you were really doing the final encounter for the raid. That the raid being rid of nightmares. Difficulty, the difficulty scaling for enemy size, or the combatant health scaling rather, being dialed back in the legendary exotic mission, and as well as the 10% enemy reduced health in Legend and Master tier activities in the game. Those were pretty big. The reduction in the commendations are again a step in the right direction. Commendations need to be completely untied from Guardian ranks, in my opinion, but we'll see if they ever get to that hill. Doesn't seem like it. Another big change was the reduction in the Scorch stacks from the Flare Up artifact perk, because it was so easy to proc ignitions in week 1 in PvP. So this was one where it was a change that needed to be addressed quickly, and they did address it quickly. Fixed an issue where target lock trait was not correctly deactivating on a miss if the weapon was firing at 720 RPM or higher. So this was an issue with the Immortal. The target lock trait was not deactivating correctly if people were missing their shots, but it's an SMG, so people are going to be hitting their shots pretty easily. So I don't know how much this actually changes the effectiveness of the Immortal. It may be like a 1% less effectiveness, because Immortal's still the best SMG in PvP right now, especially with the Rangefinder target lock roll. But yeah, those were the main quick things to note for 7.0.0.7, and now I'll go to the TWAB. This week at Bungie 30/30/23. First thing they talk about is the change in difficulty for the game, including reducing the enemy HP scaler on all non-raid dungeon Legend and Master activities by 10%. So that was part of what I talked about in 7.0.0.7 earlier. That is a 10% reduction in all Legend and Master difficulty activities in the game that are not raid or dungeon. Reduced the co-op enemy HP scaler in Legend Avalon by 33% in a full fire team. So that I'm assuming that means if it's a 3-man. So that may be a good change. I don't know. I've not actually done a full fire team run. I've only done one duo run so far. We also have some additional reductions to commendations, and this was the reduction in commendations we were talking about earlier. Mid-season preview for weapons, and at first they mentioned the PvE primary weapon balance. So they're talking about buffing auto rifle damage, pulse rifle, hand cannon, sidearm damage, scout rifle damage, and basically saying that SMGs and bows don't need any balancing whatsoever because they're still pretty good in PvE, and this is absolutely the case. I feel like it doesn't really matter what kind of SMG I use. I don't use adaptives, but it seems like the lightweights and aggressives always do very well in PvE, and it seems like bows do fairly well in PvE. So I think this is a good change for PvE that they have made. Now they're going to talk about some weapon archetypes, including aggressive frame SMGs for PvP. They have been really strong and have been meta for the last couple of months now, especially Ikelos and Teraba. Ikelos actually has its own custom scope, and it was causing it to give itself significantly less recoil, and now they're going to bring that recoil back in line with other aggressive frame SMGs. And they're talking about doing a future change that is coming along with the rest of the aggressive subfamily in Season 21, where there's going to be a 1/10 of a second TTK shift, which is an increase in the TTK from a 0.67 to a 0.77. So they're talking about changing the damage at the start of Season 21. Fusion rifles, rapid fire frames specifically, are getting increased burst damage by 15. So now it goes to, it kills all resiliences in 7 bolts. Damage in PvE is unchanged, so this is a PvP change. In my opinion, fusion rifles, especially rapid fire frames, are probably about to be a problem because of this. We may not see it just right this second, but I think it's just because of the ease of use of SMGs right now, especially aggressive frames. I think whenever we get Immortal back down in line, I think we're about to see a pretty big spike in rapid fire frame fusion rifle usage, which I could be completely wrong about that, but we shall see. Trace rifles are getting a little bit of help in PvP, increasing base damage by 4%, reduce precision hit multiplier from 1.4 to 1.35, and increasing the effectiveness of stability at reducing flinch by 10% at 100 stat, and scaling down. Sniper rifles, specifically rapid fire frames, are getting a recoil reduction of 50%, and I believe in PvE are getting an increased total ammo, magazine, and reserves by 30%. So this is going to be a pretty interesting change for rapid fire frames in PvE. Exotic weapons, talking about Final Warning and how it can no longer mark targets through a Titan barricade. Right here, they address the Teraba nerf, reducing the amount of Ravenous Beast energy generated when taking damage from 3 to 1%, and reducing the zoom value from 16 to 15. that's going to hit its handle, or that, not its handling, sorry, that's going to hit its zoom, or specifically its effective range. So looking at this to be a PvP nerf that will affect it across the game. Revision 0, the 4th time's the charm, working with Hunter's Trace. They're talking about its interactions with it. Now it's going to be reset when entering Hunter's Trace. Increasing PvE damage of the Hunter's Trace by 25%. Increased damage of the Hawkeye heavy burst rounds by 75%. So this is going to... This seems like a pretty big buff to Revision 0 for PvE. At Season 21 launch, a sweeping rework of hipfire weapon reticles to better display useful information to players, accuracy, aim assist, charge state, exotic perk state, etc. Aggressive frame SMG nerf, 10% buff to PvE sniper damage, buff adjustments to more than it does in exotic weapons, including Graviton Lance and Salvation's Grip. In the future, we're going to be taking a look at how Zoom interacts with damage fall off and the base damage fall off ranges of all weapons in general. Zoom and perks like Rangefinder that manipulate Zoom have become a requirement on several weapon types, either to compete at all in the sandbox or to allow the weapon to exceed intended engagement ranges. This has led to us to consolidate Zoom values on certain weapon archetypes, which removes an important lever that can be used to modify weapon feel, give the effect Zoom has on field of view, recoil direction, and aim assist fall off. We'll be investigating decoupling damage fall off from Zoom. This will be paired alongside a refresh of the band of the base damage fall off values to compensate, which should allow us to better control the engagement ranges of individual archetypes, while at the same time letting us continue to use Zoom as a knob for weapon feel without dramatically changing their performance. So basically, TLDR, they're going to be separating all of they're taking a look at how Zoom works and additional Zoom works via Rangefinder, and seeing how they can separate the values that change from things such as damage drop off, etc., whenever you are increasing or decreasing Zoom, and looking at base Zooms in general for certain weapon archetypes. Next part of the TWAB, they talk about the missing Kostov, a peek behind the developer curtain, and they talk about why, or they try to reason why the AR is in the game, even though we're not using it. And below that, they talk about wallpapers and such. Some of these are actually pretty funny. There was the Destiny 2 meme of the for every 10 likes or something, the puka fish gets bigger, and then now there's just one that's just freaking looking over Neomuna. So it's a pretty funny meme. I believe it's from Destiny the Meme Twitter account. So I don't know if all of this is necessarily their work, but maybe they credit whoever the account actually was responsible for making that. But anyway, below that, player support and reports. There's reports of loadout crashing, code weasel, guardian rank updating, and then some known issues down below, and some other stuff, movie of the week and artist of the week down below on the TWAB. And that is going to be it for this week's episode of the Weekly Feedback. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comments section down below. Thank you, and as always, have a good one.